Did you know most expats waste thousands of dollars on their first rental in Mexico? I've watched newcomers panic sign leases, overpaying by 40, sometimes 60%, because they miss the unspoken rules locals never tell you about. But today, that ends, and I'm going to show you how. When I first moved to Mexico, I almost fell for the same traps. I saw expats paying $2,000 for houses that locals can rent for half the price. Why? Because the Mexican rental market runs on unwritten rules. Rules you won't find on Airbnb or guidebooks or even get from most realtors. After interviewing dozens of longtime expats and property managers, I've cracked the code. Today, I'm revealing the 8 rental house hunting tips to show you where to find the most affordable rentals, how to avoid gringo prices, and negotiate like a local, and dodge the costly mistakes almost every expat makes. And stick around for tip number 7. It's the $1,000 mistake nearly every new expat makes when they come to Mexico, and it could cost you big if you don't know how to avoid it. Hey expats, I'm Marco Sison with Nomadic Fire with another fact-filled video guide to living your best life abroad. We bring you the best updated intelligence on expat life in different cities and countries overseas. With us, you get the unique perspective of having one source to compare, contrast, and catch life in the best retirement hotspots around the world. Now, before we get started, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. It only takes 2 seconds and it really helps us out. I talked with an expat couple in San Miguel de Allende that paid $500 in agent fees. It's a scam locals would never fall for. See, in Mexico, rental commissions are nearly always paid by the landlord, never by the tenant. It's kind of standard practice in the country. Yet, many expats fall for agents who charge unnecessary fees for exclusive listings unavailable to the public. These agents specifically target newcomers who don't understand the system, knowing that Mexicans or experienced expats would never pay these fees. In the case of the couple I mentioned earlier, their agent claimed that the fee was just how things work in Mexico. This leads to your first insider tip. Avoid agents altogether. And I get it. I know this isn't always possible. You're in a new city, you're in a new country, and maybe your Spanish isn't up to snuff. However, like you, landlords aren't thrilled to pay 1 month's rent to a middleman. Renting directly with a landlord is a win-win and lowers prices for everyone. Now, how do you find these direct landlord deals? That's tip number 2. If you browse any major English language rental website for properties in Mexico, you might think you need to spend $1,500 or $2,000 for a decent apartment. What these websites don't tell you is you're searching in all the wrong places. These same apartments foreigners pay premium prices for on Airbnb are listed to locals for about 30 to 50% less. It's a dual pricing system hidden in plain sight, and using an English language website frequented by expats is the surest way to find gringo prices for your rent. Forget Airbnb and international real estate websites. Use local sites that Mexicans use for their house hunting, like Facebook Marketplace and a couple others I'll list below. In these sites, you're going to find listings quoted in pesos at true market rates. Look at this quick example where I use Airbnb to see what a 2-bed, 2-bath house are available near some of my favorite neighborhoods in Merida. Most of what you see averages around $2,000 a month. Now, check out this gorgeous looking brand new house, fully furnished in the center, near the church, and is listed for about half that price. Yes, the listings are in Spanish, but between Google Translate and my basic Spanish language, the sites are going to work for you just fine. Have you seen our Merida apartment tour video yet? You can find the link over here. And using this strategy is how we found these amazing gems. Here's an important insider tip. Use a VPN to supercharge your housing search. I mean, look at these results when I search for house for rent, Merida, Mexico in English. All the results are for international real estate websites targeting English-speaking expats and prices in US dollars. Realistically, how likely are you going to get a good deal on those websites? Now, look what happens when I fire up the VPN, set it to Mexico, and type in Casa La Renta, Merida, Mexico. The algorithm offers local real estate websites with pricing in pesos. Next, you'll want to contact the landlord or agent to discuss the property, which makes the next tip much easier. Finding local listings online is just one way to avoid gringo prices. But to really get the best deals, it's time to put on your walking shoes. First, choose a couple neighborhoods you want to live in and just start walking around. You're looking for signs on windows or flyers on poles that offer places for rent. In Spanish, se renta or se alquila both mean for rent. Then jot down the number and just start making phone calls. And for this next part, a Mexican SIM or a WhatsApp number will make things easier. First, see if you can get a Spanish-speaking friend to call the number from the flyer and ask for details, so the landlord doesn't know you're a foreigner. Don't have any Spanish-speaking friends yet? See if you can get by just using WhatsApp and Google Translate. Basically, the longer you can keep the fact that you're a foreigner hidden until prices are fully negotiated, the better off you are. When talking with the landlord, follow this next tip to avoid the mistake that can jack up prices almost instantly.
And if you want more tips like these, join our Expat Insights Facebook group for your insider's guide to living abroad. Our community is where you connect, share, and discuss real expat life overseas. No clickbait videos or filtered Instagram posts here, just unbiased truth from people who made the leap. Click below to join, because life's too short to wonder, what if?
Imagine getting a beautiful colonial 2-bedroom house with a pool at 50% less than the average price for a modest 1-bedroom apartment in the US. Kinda crazy, right? Well, this savings will just go poof and vanish in seconds if you make one careless mistake. And that's letting people know what your budget is. And this one really gets under the skin of experienced expats and locals. You'll see it several times a day in Facebook groups. Someone from a high-cost US city looking for housing reveals what their max budget is. It's like opening up your wallet and showing exactly how much you're willing to spend. The problem is many expats compare Mexican rental prices to what they pay back in the US, and they're going to offer amounts that are still well above local rates. Instead, simply list your requirements without the dollar amounts. This also applies when talking to landlords in What's Up. The moment you tell them what your budget is, you've established the minimum rent you're willing to pay, not the maximum they're willing to accept. Now, here's what you want to do instead. 1, never reveal your budget. Instead of saying, well, my budget's about $2,000 a month, say, I'm looking for a 2-bedroom with air conditioning and pool. What do you have available? This forces landlords to quote actual market prices instead of what they think you can pay. Rent isn't the only place a landlord is going to try to gringo price you. It's kind of just a start. Here's an additional thing you need to look out for. In most of Mexico, you'll only need to pay the first month's rent and a security deposit equal to about 1 month's rent. Any landlord asking for more than that is a red flag. I once found a flat in Mexico City's sought-after Condesa neighborhood where the landlord demanded 6 months' rent up front. Yeah, I walked away from that deal. However, additional deposits are kind of a common way landlords exploit new expats. To clarify, the standard moving cost in Mexico is 1 month's rent, a security deposit equal to 1 month's rent, and, if applicable, maybe a pet deposit. That's it. Now, some tourist-heavy places might request the last month's rent as well, and that'll bring your total to about 3 months' worth of rent up front. But 6 months? Nah, that's a massive red flag. I haven't paid more than 1 month's rent as a deposit. I push back whenever I'm being asked for excessive deposits, especially because of tip number 7. It's the thing expats hate the most about renting in Mexico. And trust me, you don't want to miss this one. Besides increased security deposits, landlords use something called an Aval as another lever to use against renters. Avals are a particular pain in the because unlike a deposit, it's much harder to push back on. An Aval is kind of like a Mexican cosigner. It's someone who promises to pay your rent if you renege on your contract. What if you haven't made any local friends yet? Well, you have some other options, but none are awesome. 1, if you have a local job, ask your employer to be your Aval. 2, negotiate to use a policia jurídica. It's a policy protecting the landlord if you don't pay your rent or if you damage the house, and it typically costs about 10 to 20% of 1 month's rent. 3, find Aval-free properties. They exist, but they're typically going to be priced about 20 to 30% higher to offset the landlord's perceived risk. And 4, pay a larger deposit. Many landlords are going to accept additional months' payment instead of an Aval. However, this goes against my previous tip against any large deposits because of this next tip, number 7. Quick note, an Aval is a regional requirement. In Mexico City or Merida, an Aval is almost universal. However, in some beach towns, they might be a little more flexible because they rent to lots of foreign renters. And number 7 is the biggest complaint most expats have about renting in Mexico. Imagine always paying your rent on time, taking meticulous care of your house, and just expecting your deposit will be returned back to you when you move out. Well, in Mexico, your security deposit is just as likely to be a contribution to the landlord's beer money. If you spend any time on Mexico expat groups, you'll see the same story. Renters losing their security deposit regardless of the condition of the property and despite what the contract states. Landlords basically count on a foreigner's lack of patience or resources to pursue legal action, especially when they've already left Mexico. This practice is so common that many expat renters simply don't pay their last month's rent. I've been lucky with my rentals in Queretaro, CDMX, Oaxaca, and Merida. I've had my security deposit returned. However, I've known loads of people where that is not the case. My experience is the exception and not the norm. To increase your chances of getting your deposit back, take 15 minutes to document the condition of the flat before you move in. This is common practice for me in any country. Before unpacking my bags, I take a comprehensive video tour and walk around the entire house. I film every little marked wall, and every scratch, and any malfunctioning appliances, anything that could later become an expensive dispute. Then, I send that documentation to the landlord through WhatsApp, creating a timestamp of the property's condition. Now, this won't always prevent a landlord from being a little scammy, but it only takes about 15 minutes and could potentially save you hundreds of dollars. Speaking of furniture, here's the mistake everyone makes with furnished apartments in Mexico. Amueblada is Spanish for furnished. However, it's important to understand that furnished in Mexico can be quite different than what you expect coming from the US. Let me break down what these terms really mean. Amueblada, that's furnished. It's fully furnished, it's got beds, sofas, dining tables, and most of your kitchen appliances. Semi-amueblada, that's semi-furnished. And imagine you're going to get some furniture and possibly some appliances, but it's going to vary between properties and what the landlord puts in the contract. The real shock comes with sin muebles, which doesn't just mean unfurnished as Americans understand it. It can literally mean an empty space. You could be potentially without a stove, a refrigerator, a bed, a couch. You may not even have kitchen cabinets or even light bulbs or shower head. Basically no furniture whatsoever. And this mix-up can get kind of pricey. You might arrive with some kind of suitcases, think you just have to buy a bed and a couch and you're ready to move in, and you discover that you're standing in what amounts to basically an empty concrete shell. This misunderstanding can become extremely costly when you suddenly need to purchase everything from scratch, including major kitchen appliances like a stove and a refrigerator. Regional variations make this even more confusing, as tourist areas like Puerto Vallarta or Playa del Carmen are likely to include basic essentials, but if you rent in local neighborhoods, they strictly can provide bare spaces. Now you've got the 8 insider tips to dodge gringo pricing, negotiation strategies, and how to avoid some of the common scams in Mexico. But before you rush off to hunt for your next dream casa, here's what you want to do next. Before you start your housing search, comment Hola Mexico below and tell me what city you're looking at. I'll send you my free cheat sheet with Spanish negotiating scripts, where to find local rental sites, and a move-in checklist to kind of bulletproof your deposit. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss our next video on the 10 things all expats should know about moving to Mexico. Make sure you caught our last video on the cost of living in Merida and our Merida apartment guide. Remember, you can pay the gringo tax or you can rent like a local. The choice is yours, but at least now you know better. I'll see you in the next video. Hasta luego from Mexico.